At around 4:30 this afternoon in a taxi ramp at the south end of Union Station. The shooting followed an incident between the two men minutes before inside.
It started in the employees' lounge, and for some reason, the police officer pulled his revolver out and fired one shot inside the lounge. At that point, the other employee fled out into the passageway, and the station police officer followed him out and fired either one or two more rounds, killing the employee, and then turned the gun on himself.
Mike Hedgecock was waiting for his ride to pick him up, heard 3 shots, and went to see what happened.
There's a crowd standing around, and I looked, and there's a person laying with his head up against a taxi cab, and there's another person on the ground, and the one guy was all bloody, and I just turned around and came back in.
The 2 men had come from an employee lounge behind these doors out into this outbound taxi ramp where the fatal shots were fired. A doctor pronounced the baggage supervisor dead at the scene, but thought he detected a pulse in the Union Station police officer. That police officer was taken to Cabrini Hospital, where he too was pronounced dead. An Amtrak spokeswoman identified the 2 men as longtime employees at Union Station.
The Mail, Baggage and Express person had been here for some 28 years. The Chicago Union Station police officer had been here for 20, so they had obviously worked together for some time.
Other station employees described the security guard gunman as a nice guy.
Both of them were nice fellows. That's why it's a shock to me. You can never imagine anything like that.
Was there any indication of any kind of a feud between the 2 of them?
None whatsoever. Like I said, they both worked here, and employees we all got along with.
Well, witnesses say the gunman accused Burton of poisoning him before firing the first shot in that employee lounge. Tonight, officials say that is about their only clue as to a motive. Christine?
Well, Rick, about 20 minutes ago,
words between 2 Amtrak co-workers ended in gunfire at Union Station late this afternoon. When it was over, police say an off-duty security guard had murdered his friend, then committed suicide. Paul Meinke reports police are still left with many unanswered questions.
Shortly after 4, Union Station is jammed with commuters and Amtrak passengers. Baggage supervisor Marvin Burton, 54, leaves his post momentarily for the employee lounge. He argues with a man said to be his friend, off-duty railroad security cop Robert Krabeck. Then, in front of horrified onlookers at a crowded cab stand, Krabeck pulls out a .357 and starts shooting.
And I heard a gunshot. I looked up, I saw an old man fall, and then the guy that was holding the gun just shot himself in the head.
Immediately, he put the gun up to his own head and pulled the trigger.
That's what he did. Shot himself right in the head.
Moments before opening fire, Krabeck was heard to yell at Burton, "You've poisoned me." Then he shot Burton once, but Burton was still able to run this direction for about 20 yards. Krabeck fired twice more before turning the gun on himself. Marvin Burton died instantly. Krabeck died later from his self-inflicted gunshot wound. Amtrak officials say off-duty security cop Krabeck had been on personal leave since August 5th because of an undisclosed illness. His workers say Krabeck was a good guy and would often joke around with Burton. They knew each other,
They knew each other and they were friends. That's the truth. I don't know what triggered this. I couldn't say.
Police tonight are trying to figure out what made Krabeck snap, killing a man he'd known for nearly 2 decades, then taking his own life. Paul Meinke, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
And police tonight did confirm that guard Robert Krabeck was treated in area alcohol detoxification programs. They are still not sure what role, if any, that may have played in the shootings. Joan?
Union Station may have been motivated by a crazed belief that one man was trying to have the other killed. Though acquaintances tell us 46-year-old Robert Krabeck and 54-year-old Marvin Burton were longtime friends, recently Krabeck started thinking Burton was setting him up for murder. For the past 10 days of his life, Robert Krabeck was treated for alcoholism here at Hinsdale Hospital. Sources tell Eyewitness News he had a chronic problem of mixing alcohol and Valium, and because of it was suffering serious mental and physical health problems. Krabeck walked out of Hinsdale Hospital yesterday, apparently telling family members he had just received test results from the Mayo Clinic that show he had been poisoned with arsenic and mercury. The Mayo Clinic denies he was ever a patient there. Police don't believe the story, but that's apparently what touched off Krabeck to go gunning for Marvin Burton. He believed Burton had poisoned him.
We're not prepared to disclose personnel or medical histories on either employee. We're not convinced that either of these histories has anything to do with yesterday's events.
But just before shooting Burton here in the Amtrak employees' lounge, witnesses say Krabeck yelled, "You poisoned me." They then ran out this door to a taxi stand where Burton was killed, and Krabeck then turned the gun on himself. Krabeck's fear of poisoning, which police believe is unfounded, apparently stems from this fire at Union Station 5 years ago. Police say Krabeck was convinced someone wanted to kill him to prevent him from testifying that the fire was arson. Sources say he suspected Burton because he had lent his truck to him. When it was returned, he was convinced a bomb had been planted and arsenic sprinkled inside. Krabeck's relatives confirm the story but don't know whether to believe it themselves. The police don't. They've closed the case. Joel?
Amtrak employee before killing himself at Union Station yesterday. Robert Krabeck was a station security guard. Police say he was undergoing treatment for alcohol abuse, and they describe Krabeck as mentally unstable. Krabeck shot and killed Marvin Burton, the baggage supervisor. Witnesses say the two argued in the employee lounge. Krabeck pulled a gun and chased Burton to the station's crowded cab stand where he killed Burton and then turned the gun on himself.